Today I want to talk about the myth of the selfless lover. So if you're like me, you probably learned growing up that the more selfless you are in bed, the better the lover that you're actually going to be. But this is actually false. So if you think about pleasing, if you think about giving, they're great on paper, but in reality, these are actually quietly destroying your intimate life. And I'll explain more on the other side. Hi, I'm Scott Shortley, and I'm the founder of Coell, a guided audio intimacy app for couples. So if you find yourself in predictable routines, kind of doing the same moves, the same techniques in the bedroom, check out Coell. It's like almost having a GPS in your bedroom where a narrator will kind of guide you through new experiences and new opportunities for connection. So definitely check it out if you're wanting to, again, break out of some of those monotonous routines that may exist. All right, so today, as I mentioned, I want to talk about the myth of the selfless lover. And so I know, just looking at my own self and just my own personal story, I grew up with this myth and believing that it was accurate. And so particularly from a religious standpoint, with me growing up in a very sort of conservative Christian environment, you're always taught that love is a sacrifice, and so you want to put others before yourself. And again, all great principles, not knocking those, but within the context of the bedroom, some of these things can actually get in the way and actually can become problematic. Or if you think about themes around masculinity, that your job there is to simply help her reach climax, that again you're there to please, and you're there to serve, and you're there to sacrifice. Again, great things on paper, but ultimately what these result in is really where they kind of land is in this realm of performing rather than loving. And that's really kind of the key headline here, is that you don't want to fall into this performance trap. And generally when you go in with that being your mindset, again, this myth of the selfless lover being selfless, you're more in line with performance than you are with actually loving. And so what I want to do now is just spend a few minutes talking about that, right? And why that fails, and why that approach simply does not work if you want to be more connected with your partner and have a healthier and better intimate life. So let's walk through these 3 specific reasons of why this actually fails and why this should not be your approach. So reason number 1 why selfless lovers typically fail or struggle in the bedroom is that they're simply not present. So if you think about, and I know I've been this way before, sort of in my previous life, is that you focus on that checklist, right? You're focusing on, am I getting this right? Am I doing this right? Do I kiss here, touch there? Do I, again, follow this 7-step way to, get her to climax? By doing this, you are not present. And that is the ultimate problem. And so if you want to look into this more, if you want to research it more, there's actually been a lot of great studies and work done, but specifically the work of Dr. Stephen Snyder. Now, he wrote a book called Love Worth Making. And in it, he talks about how when you kind of go through this, sort of checklist, if you go through sort of these to-do items, these are the things that kill eroticism. And so if you're expecting to have this great, beautiful moment, but you're focused on whether you're getting it right, it's just not going to happen. So yes, again, on paper, being a selfless lover sounds great, and appreciate the effort and sort of the willingness to kind of do your homework and go through that. But at the end of the day, it kills romance. So don't do it. All right, let's talk about number 2. So reason number 2 here is that pleasure is contagious, but only, and this is the important part, but only if you're having it. All right, so let me repeat that. So pleasure is contagious, but only if you're having it. So again, if you go back to that checklist, if you're trying to go through the motions, if you're just focusing on your partner and you're not focusing on yourself, they may be receiving pleasure, but you're not necessarily receiving pleasure because you're too much sort of in this cognitive mode where your mind is sort of guiding the moment, not your body. So you're listening to your mind, you're not listening to your body. You're probably getting some levels of pleasure, but not that deep level of pleasure. And so in this case, it's not going to be contagious. Your partner is going to sense the disconnect, and again, it's just going to be sort of a subpar, sort of mediocre, intimate experience. And we all want more than that, right? So get out of your head, listen to your body, focus on your own pleasure. And so in this case, it's okay to be a little bit selfish. But how you can be selfish here is really getting back to that primal self, right? So in my previous video, I talked about doing a desires exercise where you can really tap into your primal, sort of those carnal desires that exist within you. And as you allow that to emerge, you allow that to come to the surface where you can sort of just ravish your partner, that's going to create the intimacy. And then they're going to feel connected. They're going to respond to that instead. So instead of doing the checklist, just tap into your desires, let those desires come out. And as they come out, you're experiencing pleasure, they're experiencing pleasure, because again, that's where that contagious component kicks in, and that's going to create a much more intimate experience. All right, let's talk about number 3, again, on why selfless lovers typically fail. So here's number 3. So number 3 here is that your partner wants to be wanted. They want to be desired. They don't want to be serviced. In fact, if you think about sort of our core desires as human beings, I don't want to go too much on a tangent here, but the Somatic Institute, Celeste Hirschman, Danielle Harrell, they came out with 14 core desires of basically you're going to be wired in one of these 14 different ways. Typically 2 or 3 are going to stand out to you. But if you look at this list of 14, you've got words like adored, cherish, desired, seen. All right, these are all key themes, right? But we want to be desired. Again, we want to be wanted. We don't want to be serviced. So again, as you start going through that checklist, if you start going through, okay, touch this, kiss that, do this for 2 minutes, then move on to this. No, that's servicing, that's pleasing. So again, if you allow those sort of core desires that I was talking about earlier to come to the surface, then and only then is your partner going to really start to feel wanted, which is the main goal here. All right, let's begin to wrap this up. All right, so as we begin to conclude here, my suggestion or advice at this point is we've now acknowledged that being selfless, again, sounds great, but in reality, it's not going to really serve you well in the bedroom. And so what can you do to get around this, to navigate it? So number 1, as I mentioned, you got to go through that desires exercise that I talked about in the previous video. That if you can spend time by yourself and really focus in on like what do you want, tap into that sort of, again, carnal, those carnal urges that exist, you can allow that, again, to emerge when you're being intimate. Good way to start this, if you don't want to jump right into that sort of exercise, is just spending time with yourself. Going through breath work, again, using that time to breathe, to tap into your body. The core objective here is to really, again, get outside of your head and start focusing more on your body. And what does your body crave? What does your body want? Because operating from your mind in an intimate scenario, again, that's the biggest killer. That, again, is coming really, again, more from that selfless lover lens. And so you just have to be listening to your body. What does it want? And so, one thing I would suggest is having sort of, just focus time to yourself, whether that's breath work, doing a desires exercise. If you are in a relationship where something like masturbation's okay, really doing intentional sort of masturbation sort of routines or exercises where instead of just focusing on your genitals and going right to it, like touch your body, touch your face, touch your chest, do some guided audio to kind of guide you through that. But again, it's about allowing yourself to tap into your body and the sensations that you feel. So again, you can bring all of that desire, again, into an intimate setting. So that's a good place to start, and I'll leave you with sort of that recommendation. All right, as always, this YouTube channel exists to focus on topics like intimacy, guided audio specifically. So if you found this information helpful, always appreciate the likes and the subscribes. And until next time, remember this, intimacy, it's not automatic, it's guided.